Hey friend, Colin here from Sumthins Recording, and today I'm going to show you how to mix aggressive bass guitar. We're going to be tackling an aggressive bass guitar today using just EQ and compression. And this is going to help you sit a more aggressive style bass guitar properly inside your mix. So making sure it has the right amount of low end and the right amount of top end so it's balanced inside your track. But before we dive in here, if you're ready to go a little bit deeper into the mixing process in its entirety and really start to hone your workflow as an audio engineer, then I have just the thing for you. It is my 7-step mixing checklist, and it's just a simple PDF that will walk you through the entire mixing process step by step to help you get professional and radio-ready mixes without any more of the guesswork and without any more of the hassle. It is a completely free guide, and you can download it below using the link in the video description. Now let's jump in here and take a look at this bass guitar. So some of the problems with a more aggressive style bass guitar are that the harder you kind of hit at the bass guitar, sometimes the less low end you end up with on the back end when you get it inside your DAW. So let me play you the bass guitar inside the mix here, and then I'll solo it up, and you can hear our finished bass guitar mix. And from there, we'll strip off all the plugins. You can hear where we started. So you can hear our final mix on the bass guitar is still very aggressive. We're not taming the bass guitar here. We're just dealing with the problems that arise from a very aggressively played bass part here. So take a listen here. I want you to hear where we started. So here's our raw bass guitar sound. You can hear our raw bass guitar lacks quite a bit of bottom end. We have that nice gritty top end, and we have that aggression from how hard the bass player is playing this song. That's going to cut through the mix, but we need the bottom end foundation as well. And that's sometimes what you're going to lack with a more aggressively played bass guitar. So how do we fix that? Piece by piece here, starting up top with our EQ. The first thing we're doing here is we're controlling our bottom end. And that means for me, rolling in our high pass filter and then pulling out some of the headache frequency, some of that boominess around 200 hertz there. That's going to give me a controlled bottom end that I can then emphasize later on down the line here. So I'm going to do both of these together because both of these cuts are working together. We're controlling the sub area with our high pass filter. I've got a 12 dB per octave slope rolled up to about 70 hertz here. So right below the fundamental that I want to emphasize at 80 hertz here. So controlling the sub area and then rolling out some of this kind of headache frequency that gets a little bit too much on bass guitar at 200 hertz here with 198 hertz pulling out about 4 dB. So take a listen without and then with. Now with these two cuts in, you might be thinking we're thinning out the bass guitar too much, but we're controlling our bottom end first before we boost. If we just go in and we start boosting, then we're going to have an uneven bottom end that moves around. I don't want the bottom end to move around. We're already lacking some bottom end, so we want to control it and then boost it and set it exactly where we want it here. So getting rid of that headache frequency, tightening up our bottom end here. The next piece of our chain here is controlling our bass guitar volume. So we want to get even before we boost bottom end, all right? So we've controlled our bottom end here. Now we're going to even out our bass guitar overall. So we're going to set it where we want it volume-wise so we can adjust our bottom end from there. And my favorite tool for evening out a bass guitar in a mix is 100% 1176 style compressor. I love the FET comp here inside of PreSonus Studio One of their stock plugins here. So I use this all the time. I've got the attack set at about 0.55 milliseconds here, which is medium slow for this unit, but still very, very fast in general here. 4 to 1, release all the way fast at 50 milliseconds. So we want to grab these bigger peaks and let go as fast as possible, so we're not holding anything down that doesn't need to be compressed. We're pushing our input in here to get 3 to 5 dB reduction on these bigger peaks here, and that's going to give us a better level of control volume-wise over our bass guitar. So take a listen here without, and then I'll kick the compressor in. You can see how much reduction we're doing and hear how it changes our bass guitar. The nice thing I've found about bass guitar is you can compress it relatively aggressively to get it even and set it where you want it inside the track, and any kind of distortion or artifacts that you get from the over compression actually leads to it cutting through the mix a little bit better, especially with the 1176 style compressor like this. It's one of my favorite reasons for using this compressor is that extra level of grit you get from compressing bass frequencies like that. So that's our compressor. We've controlled our bottom end. We've evened out our bass guitar. Let's deal with our bottom end here now. Because we were lacking so much bottom end, I wanted to insert an extra level of control here. So I pulled in a multiband, and I've got it set to look at 180 hertz and below here. I've put our ratio all the way up to 20 to 1. Fastest attack, fastest release. So we're going to grab these bass notes that are too much or that jump out, and we're going to leave room for the rest of them to sit exactly where they are. So we're going to pull the bigger notes down to match the quieter notes, and then you can see we're pulling our gain up overall. This is going to give us control in our bottom end before we boost here. So take a listen without the multiband, and then I'm going to kick it in here. Focus on how our bottom end changes. You can see our meters kind of going wild here. It looks like we're doing a ton of compression on the low end, which can be scary on bass guitar, compressing the low end that much. But if we look right here where we've got our threshold set, I want you to notice that our bass guitar bottom end doesn't move. That's what we're after here. It's sitting exactly where we want it. So now we've got this even bottom end that now afterwards we can then boost up inside our mix here. You can see we're doing quite a bit of boosting here. So once we've got it even, we can boost it as much as we need to set it where we want it inside the mix here. So we're doing about a 10.5 dB boost at 80 hertz here. So take a listen without this boost, and then I'm going to kick it in. You'll hear how suddenly our bass guitar fills out. There's all that beautiful low end we want to hear on our bass guitar that we were missing because of how aggressively played this bass guitar was. So take a listen now. You can hear the full before and after on our bass guitar. You can hear without our processing, our low end is inconsistent, it moves around, and sometimes it's non-existent on some of these notes here. Once we kick all our processing in, our low end is controlled, it's even inside our track, and it's going to help us sit our bass guitar exactly where we want it inside the mix. I hope that was helpful for you. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you're ready to take your mixes to the next level and really start dialing in your workflow as an audio engineer, then I have just the tool for you, and it is completely free. It is my 7-step mixing checklist, and you can download it below to start creating more professional mixes in less time. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.